We are back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek.
That was flawless. It was amazing.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello. I'm the special guest, Doom on the Tube.
Doom on the Tube. Oh my god. Get that going before this goes live, before someone steals it from you, because
hashtag Doom on the Tube.
Hashtag Doom on the Tube. Yes. Yes. Very nice. God. So I will explain to the audience why I'm wearing solar shades at the moment, which is what they are called in the future, which is where I'm from. I'm actually Sohail from the end of this season of Star Trek The Next Generation, and I've come back to talk to Sean, who hasn't been there yet.
Wow. I'm mind blown.
That's the summary for this week's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation and Starfleet Boy, which is A Matter of Time, starring the excellent Matt Fuhrer. And Sean, do you want to do, before we talk more about Doomcock, do you want to do the episode summary?
I can do the episode summary.
I mean, I would like it if you did, because I do so many of them. I mean, I know what happened.
Can I point out a possible technical difficulty that we have?
What is it?
I can sometimes hear myself through your speakers.
Oh, I didn't do the thing. Thank you. You just saved the show. This is easily remedied for the rest of the episode.
Well, there you go.
By me putting on
quick fix.
By me putting on headphones and hashtag so pro.
It also adds to your outfit, so that's awesome.
It does. Actually, now it's like, wow, this is you're right. This totally makes it better. And now,
amazing. You look like a Gen 10 Pokemon.
By the way, to answer, this show's even weirder, because to answer another question that is on Twitter, which is your favorite variation, that one is mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. It does that.
So is it the whole thing, or is it just the delta with the circle around it, or is it the
whole shebang?
Whole badge?
I don't know what any of this means. It's never been explained on Star Trek, as far as I know. And I haven't come across any kind of like official information that details why there's this like huge bar of gold, essentially, with like these little designs in there and what they mean. And there's a dot too.
It represents when Starfleet was really rich. They had a lot of bars of gold platinum with them, and
if you're ever in a Ferengi prison, offer them your comm badge.
Exactly. Gold.
Right? It's the best way to get out of there. Just offer them your gold pressed platinum comm badge. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, they're Ferengi. They might just take your comm badge and leave you in prison anyway.
Do you have STLV FOMO as well?
STLV what?
FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, are you looking at all the, are you like all obsessively looking on Twitter like I am?
Okay, so for people that are listening to us, as we speak, Star Trek Las Vegas, the biggest Star Trek convention, is happening, and so we're not there.
We're not there.
And we're very happy to be together talking.
Yes,
we are together talking alone, away from all the fun. I wish I was there. I've never been. And I hope I'll be able to go there someday. I want to go next year.
That's my plan too. Maybe that'll be a thing.
Because I have one of my new friends in Quebec here. He went with two of his mates, and so they're all wearing skants of different colors and stuff, and they're all having fun. They met with Jordan Hoffman, took some photos. So I want to join them next time, hopefully.
They should form a Beatles tribute band and sing "Scant by Me, Love."
There's been jokes about the three, scant amigos for a while. Now.
Would you wear a scant? Would you wear a scant with them if they go again next year? Are you
I could wear a scant with them if there were multiple people. I wouldn't solo scant. but I can multi-scan. That's fine.
I don't know. I
But
when
see,
I was
it
a
kills
kid.
the joke because there's three of them. So I said it's the Three Musketeers.
Oh my god, that is. But there's four in the actual novel, so it's perfect. You could be the D'Artagnan.
Yeah, well, he's not a musketeer, isn't he? He's like a musketeer in training, isn't he? Something.
Right? Yeah, that's who you could be. That's
He's
how
an
you
apprentice.
explain it. Yes, you're scantly a musketeer. Oh my god, I gotta stop.
So I can have like a gray scant, like a Wesley Crusher scant.
We didn't know what they were called when I was a kid, and we just said, "Oh my god, there are dresses. Men are wearing dresses on Star Trek." That's what we thought.
Well, one of my first videos I made on my channel, I talk about the uniforms, and so these were back in the day.
That's my day.
I didn't script my videos. I didn't script my videos. I just said whatever I thought was best to say in the moment, and I didn't know what they were called. I didn't do any research. I just called them a skirt or a dress. Sorry. So this guy's wearing a dress, and I got so many angry replies, so many angry comments. It's a scant. You don't know it's a scant. I'd never heard of that before.
I hadn't either, because up until then I'd only thought that the acceptable male uniform was like pants or shorts, and on rare occasions a kilt.
For that one guy that we all know, right?
Me, I would have totally worn a kilt. In fact, I may have when I was a kid in jig competitions, which is a whole conversation I don't want to get into. But what? Oh, yes, I was not brave. I was not brave enough to wear it.
Traditional.
No, I did. I was a reformist. The reformist school.
Oh wow! Oh my god! Look at that. Breaking traditions like that.
I know. Well, it's not it's modifying a tradition, which is what Star Trek Discovery. We're just talking way too much. We're supposed to keep this episode short.
It's ridiculous.
You haven't even done the summary. I demand, sir, that you stick to the schedule.
My bad. This episode's already gone all wrong. Let's do the ratings.
It's the sunglasses. They're completely distracting. I know, but
it is.
But wow. Pay no attention to the man.
I can't see your emotions anymore. It's horrible.
It's true.
You're smiling, but I can't see it.
I'm gonna mute because I have to cough like a crazy amount, which is good. I think this is good.
Okay, so I'll do my summary while you cough.
There we go. I'm back. Go on.
Okay. Okay. So episode summary. Okay. So essentially, the USS Enterprise with the Captain Picard is off to help a planet in trouble. They're having seismic activities, and they've got volcanoes, and all hell's breaking loose on the surface of the planet. They also have a lot of ash that's stopping the sun from heating the planet correctly. So that's kind of, I suppose, the subplot. Well, I didn't really notice if there was a plot A or a plot B. It was just kind of, there was no subplot. It was just two plots going on at the same time.
I agree.
So yeah, Geordi the tech whiz is sent down to the planet to kind of deal with that situation. So there's a whole story about Geordi having to work with the Enterprise and with the engineers on the planet's surface to essentially find a way to reheat the planet and kind of take away all of the what is it? It's just pollution, I suppose, or the
like the
natural particles that have kind of made this planet uninhabitable.
Right.
My bad. So that plot's going on, and there's another plot that begins while we're on our way to this planet. That involves a spacecraft, apparently from the 26th century, and a dude. A very special guest star,
Matt
from apparently the 26th century as well. And so he says that he's here to observe the Enterprise and observe crew members on the Enterprise, just do their thing until this sort of event happens, and he's just here to check them out and document everything.
You're saying the summary, I mean, like re-witnessing it is just so wonderful. Anyways, go on.
Well, is this because it's one of the only times I've done the summary? Is that it?
No, I remember I'm from the future. I stated in the beginning of the show.
Oh my god!
Really, I'm from. I'm actually from the future.
I can't do time shenanigans. I can't even remember the present. Come on.
Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Anyway, for the duration of the episode, everyone's kind of doubtful about this dude. They don't really know. Riker's really mad at him for
Really?
like he just really doesn't like the guy.
He's so mad.
And so they give us these shady shots of him stealing shit. And eventually the big plot twist, the big reveal is that he's not from the 26th century. He killed the guy that was from the 26th century that arrived in the 22nd century, and this guy's from the past, and he's stealing stuff that he will pseudo invent when he gets back to his time. But then, of course, Data and Picard and the rest of the crew, I imagine so, figured out his whole thing, and they stopped him.
You will not rewrite my history, sir!
Yes. Yes. We need to talk about that outburst, that speech. It was great. I loved it.
I loved it. Yes, it's true. Anyway, sorry. Are you finished with your summary? No, you're not.
I'm pretty much finished with it. Well, the only thing, interesting.
Well, and also the planet gets saved. Yes.
The planet gets saved, and the ship goes back to the time from whence it came, or at least I think it goes back to the 22nd century, which might not be good. I hope it goes back to the 26th.
I think it goes to the 22nd, but anyways, go on.
Okay, well, that's not really good anyway, because it'll just happen again. But this guy stays in the 24th. Welcome to the 24th century. And he'll get locked up in jail, and then I suppose he'll get interviewed and questioned by many historical scientists.
And he's not going to be punished. We know how the Federation and Starfleet work. They're going to be like, we're going to rehabilitate you, and you're going to have a nice little life. There's no money here. We're going to give you a house or a planet to live on, because we have plenty.
Well, he'll be sent to like the penal colony on New Zealand, I assume.
Oh, that's true. There is a penal colony. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager. Very true.
He'll be sent there, I assume. But we've got nice beaches, so he'll be fine.
That's a great prison, by the way. Is to hurt sheep all day. It's like, we're going to send you to the land of the Lord of the Rings, and you will fight.
That's stupid. I would send people to Australia. That's a prison.
But then that would be racist because it's already traditionally a prison. It started out in real life as a prison planet.
Yeah.
I mean, not planet, but
but
a prison island.
That's what I know. Is that Australia was originally a prison, but then it's a good idea because it's a rock with sand on it, isn't it?
This is true. I love this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
It's off to a good start. Well, that's because you already know what's happening, right?
I already know what's happening. This is like probably one of my favorite episodes. I also know how long this episode is going to be. And I'm going to see if you can change. If you can actually change the future and prove me wrong.
I could hang up now.
No, don't do it. Yes, you can. You win. Damn it. Get off my bridge. I would just do the show alone. Just, like, to my who I'm observing at the moment.
Very meta comment. I am currently listening to a slightly famous podcast that some of you might have heard of called Drunk Space Nine.
Yay!
And so I'm a few episodes behind because I'm following along, not as your episodes are released, but more as I rewatch my Deep Space Nine. And there's like an episode where you just hung up at the end.
Yeah.
And your co-host was quite surprised. You can hear him say, oh really? Oh, is that it? And then it just stops. I was like, okay, well, that's one way to end a podcast.
That's because Scott and I are real life friends, and sometimes we don't know we're joking with each other, and so especially, how can you expect someone to be reasonable when they're drunk? I mean, like, it's kind of impossible, right?
Fair enough.
But actually, thank you for mentioning that, because I do want to say that for those who are current on Drunk Space Nine, the show is in a strange place, but I think it'll recover from it. The other thing is that Guldu Scott, my co-host, or I'm his co-host. We're never sure who's, but
I think you're his co-host.
He's at STLV, but it's the worst person to like. He's not into like. He doesn't tweet. He doesn't like share things. He hardly sends me I was like, send photos so I can post them on our Drunk Space 9 account. But he's there, and I'm sure he's out of his mind enjoying it. But he chooses.
He's not a tweeter.
He chooses not to cooperate.
I can attest to that because I sent him messages on Twitter for weeks, and then eventually I got one reply to a comment. He added me as a friend so I could like direct message him. I said hi with a smiley face, and he never answered. And so it's not rude. It's just he doesn't seem to be a Twitter guy. So I'll see in 6 months' time if he answers.
Okay, so we both man the Twitter. So I actually haven't answered because I was waiting for him to answer, but that's why I said email him.
Oh no. I'm talking about his personal Golden Scat.
I have nothing to do with that. So.
Yeah, no. I assume it's him alone, and I'm challenging myself now. I'm betting on when he's going to answer.
I think so. He listens to this show. I happen to know this for a fact.
Oh god, I've couldn't you tell me? You being from the future, couldn't you tell me that?
Why would you think one of my closest friends wouldn't listen to Starfleet Boy? He listens to. This is why he doesn't make new Drunk Space Nines. It's because, or he's not in a hurry. He's like, I just listen to Starfleet Boy, and that
26th of July. That's when I sent the message.
Wow. All right. So Scott. See, I'm not such a bad person after all. You're worse than I am. Anyway, that was a direct message.
Yeah. I'm not involved with that.
Sean, I'm very interested. I have a lot of questions. Actually, more than notes, I have questions that I wrote down in my notebook here. About this episode. Because I think this is an episode that has like two different things, as you said, going on, and like definitely I think personally that they were both executed really well. I didn't care so much about what was going on the planet until the Enterprise became a conduit of some kind for energy and like this like insane amount, and then I was like awesome. Yeah, and then I was like, wait a second, I didn't understand what was going on. Now now it's like, okay, this is insane. So that was a pretty cool part. So I was impressed when that happened, because usually in these type of episodes, like nothing really, you don't remember the other plot as you said in the summary. That's why it's not a B plot in your assessment, I would assume, but the other story, if you will. But in this case, I thought it was memorable. So yeah, go ahead.
It was nice to have like a visual conclusion to that kind of subplot, because usually these secondary plots with like a shenanigans happening on a planet, they usually end by saying, Geordi to Picard, it's fixed.
Yeah.
Beam me up. And then it's just kind of done. And this was different. We had like and the CG was good. I'm watching the remastered version on Netflix. And it looks pretty good, actually. And
I couldn't tell you
it was a spectacle, so I liked it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you if the effects were impressive like in its original airing. I'd have to watch one of those like comparison videos, because I can't remember, because the remastered CG is so good. I'm like, oh, that's how it always was.
I love the TNG remastered. I hate the original series remastered.
Really? I love it. I think it's
I hate is maybe a big word. There's just certain elements that I'm not too keen on. I think they went a little overboard in certain circumstances.
Well, now you have Star Trek Discovery, which is also a remastering of TOS. Anyways, sorry.
I just don't know what to say.
Doomcock has influenced some of this show. No, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm really.
Season 2, Star Trek Discovery. Captain Pike is gay.
Oh.
Well, technically, he could be.
He could be.
Now that I think about it, nothing says he isn't.
In the novelization of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which Gene Roddenberry.
That's not canon.
It doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Okay, but I'll show you where you can put your cannon. Anyways,
Well, I mean, yeah,
I learned
the same place you put your Doomcock, I suppose. But
yes, actually, it is the same goddamn place. But anyways, the novelization which Gene Roddenberry God wrote, right? Fair, we can agree it. And
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry wrote Captain Kirk, the character, contemplates a sexual relationship, perhaps with a romantic / sexual relationship with Spock.
Bullshit.
And that's
I don't believe that.
there.
Really?
I'll just put that right there. And then
did Gene Roddenberry do that? Did he do that, or was he influenced by the
60s and drugs
by the shipping era? Because shipping began with Star Trek. They started shipping Spock and Kirk together in fandom. And was he simply influenced?
Okay, this is a genuine question, because I think the actual shipping started with Julian Bashir and Garrick, but then Spock and Kirk were retconned into shipping, because I don't think shipping really existed until like the 90s.
I think shipping, the term as in relation shipping, for people that
yes.
unaware. I think the term itself is a relatively modern term. Yeah, it came into play where clearly Bashir and Garrick were supposed to be together.
Prior to shipping, that kind of relationship only existed, well, as far as I can remember, in slash fiction, which was actually a cooler word for it, in my opinion. But it sounds a little pornographic.
It sounds more extreme.
It's slash fiction. We're gonna. It's true, it does.
But
shipping is very gentle. It's like,
no,
I'm going to ship you together. Sorry.
The word itself is more modern, I think. But I think the concept began with Kirk and Spock. The concept of having two characters that were essentially not supposed to be together in any way, putting them together just because, I suppose kinkiness, kinky reasons. I think that began with Star Trek: The Original Series and with Kirk and Spock.
I 100% believe that that's true, because I'm certain that if I were watching Star Trek on television in the 60s when it originally aired, that I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe. 100%. There's a lot of love between those two, and it's expressed on the show. It's easy for the mind to wander.
I would have shipped McCoy and Spock more than Kirk and Spock.
I think that happened too. It's clearly a three-way relationship.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Yeah,
very open, very future. No, I would have shipped McCoy simply because you can feel the sexual tension. He's always angry, right?
And Spock does have daddy issues, so it would make sense that he would go with an older man as opposed to Captain Kirk, who's around his age.
We fixed it. There you go. We've fixed all the canon inconsistencies. There you go. You can proceed, Discovery.
Thank you. Excellent.
Spock is not present in season 2 of Discovery because he's off trying to find young Kirk in the Academy, or on another ship somewhere.
Yes. I think it'd be cool if Dax shows up in the middle. I mean,
McCoy's nickname is Bones.
Oh my god!
God damn!
Wait, remember, we're not on Drunk Space 9. Although you will be on the show. This is like your audition tape for Drunk Space 9. I think Scott.
I feel like I've been heavily influenced over these past few weeks. So,
Scott, this is the official audition tape for Trek on the Tube to appear on Drunk Space 9. I think he'll agree.
It's the first time I've said nothing of this. I've said nothing of interest in the past 24 minutes. I think it's the first time on Starfleet Boy. We usually get into some hardcore topics, but
we are about to. I have notes. I'm not forgetting them just because we're distracted here and there. I do have another thing to point out real quick, and then I'll ask you my first question, unless you have some notes you want to go over. Which is, I think that you haven't commented on the new views that you have behind Starfleet Boy, and now I'm not so shadowed. I'm not, even though I am wearing sunglasses, I'm not in the witness protection program like I was before, where I was sometimes completely in shadow. So that's good.
Well, I did comment,
Oh, yes, you
But
did. Sorry.
but you don't know that because I commented alone when I watched one of the latest episodes of Starfleet Boy at home.
Nice. You guys watch us on a TV, like on a TV?
No, it's just I have a tendency to, when I don't know, doing the dishes or something, I'll just throw up a
That's what
Starfleet Boy. Da, da, da,
I heard.
da,
I heard that happens a lot. Oh yeah,
da,
look.
da, da, da. Well, that's Deep Space Nine. See, Drunk Space Nine is influencing.
No, you did the TNG. It sounded like TNG's thing. So I got this
It's
at
because they
the.
have the first few notes the same, I think.
I got this. I've been showing one of these every episode. Did I already show? I already showed this one. Damn it! I already. I just
Well, the
remembered.
chances are you showed the Enterprise D, yeah.
Wait, I meant to show a different one. Hold on, it's coming. And while I go get that one, the question that I had for you is, what would you do, Sean, if you were just kind of hanging out and this like ship appeared in front of your, like in your backyard, let's say, and, like basically this situation, whoever Rasmussen really is, the inventor from New Jersey, like that same scenario, what would you do with the time machine that you you somehow acquired?
Well, I have a wife and
Jersey.
I have a wife and a child on the way. So the correct answer is,
Ooh,
I don't do anything.
nice.
I take care of my family. But the tricky answer is, I would find a way to get on that ship and go to the future.
You would definitely go to the. You definitely.
I would want to go to the future. Yeah, I could even take my family with me to a peaceful future. I mean, assuming it's a utopian future, not a, not a Mad Max type scenario.
How do you know it's utopian unless you've lived there for a while? Like, would you sample each of these potential like futures? Like, would you like? Let's say you go 100 years, it's not okay. You go like 300 years, it still doesn't feel right. You go like 700 years, right? And then you find like, how would you do it?
Yeah, I think that's what you try and do, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I think I'd skip maybe every 100 years, just check it out, see what's going on, see what's happening.
Had you seen this episode? Had you seen this episode of TNG before? Was this your first time?
I had seen it. I've seen it, I think, 3 times when I was a kid, because I used to binge TNG just on repeat. And I used to like this episode as a kid. I gotta say, I was.
Were you surprised by the ending? When
I was very surprised by the ending the first time. I was mind blown by it, because I think the execution isn't that good, contrary to what you think. We can talk about that later. But we
could talk about that now.
We can talk about that now. Okay.
No, well, I have a question. I have a question about that, because I was also like totally like, but it's like the sad thing about episodes like this is like they only work the impactful part of it. The reason you're like, they only work the one time.
Yeah.
So it's like a cool episode to like, you can show it to someone else and kind of relive that like experience when you see them react. But I do think that that would be like it's a built-in fatal flaw, I think, of episodes like this, where you have like the surprise at the end.
It is. I don't know if you know that movie, that movie called The Game.
Yes.
It works once, right?
It only once. It's true. That's a really great.
Then when I rewatched it, I was like, this isn't good. I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies the first time I saw it. The second time I saw it, I was like, this isn't working for me. So I think the movie works once. That's why I prefer psychological thrillers more, like Shutter Island, which I think works every time, because every time you interpret it differently.
I haven't seen that one, so I'll have to check it out. But or like the other one, I love that movie. That's along the same veins. It's Inception, for example. I think that movie is totally like one that you can like glean new insight from all the time. But yeah, it's just like The Sixth Sense. I think I love that movie, but I've only seen it like 1 time or 2 times, because
same thing. I've seen The Sixth Sense once and I loved it, and I haven't rewatched it since because I'm afraid to. A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe is a movie that I've only seen once. I think it's probably one of my favorite movies, but because I've only seen it that 1 time, I'm afraid of watching it a second time. Now, if it's done right,
I haven't seen the second time you watch. So don't tell me.
So I won't spoil. I won't spoil anything. But if these kind of movies or episodes are done right, when you rewatch it, you simply have a different interpretation of what's going on, and you see things that you didn't see before, which is the way I see Fight Club now when I watch Fight Club. But if it's done wrong, then the movie becomes completely pointless because you've already seen the plot twist.
I think you're right. And I think one of the reasons I think it was done well in this episode is because what stands out about this episode, what I remembered the most when I was getting ready to rewatch this episode was not the cool twist at the end, even though I did, I was like, as soon as the episode, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that one, right? But I'm like, oh, I already know what happens. But the thing that I think that I didn't notice ever before, and I've only seen this episode a handful of times, like probably this is the third time ever that I've seen it. What I didn't remember was all the great performances, and that stood out 100% this time in my mind. So I think it's valuable from like a novelty perspective, if you will, especially on subsequent viewings. Excuse me. And what I really liked was like the character interplays, like for example, how they were all reacting to Rasmussen, and I started kind of picking apart the character and trying to find a flaw in his like continuity or his like. So he's basically like a really good con artist. He somehow, what I want to know is how did he like get so knowledgeable about everything? How does he like? I kind of want to. I rarely like prequels, but I would love an episode of Star Trek. Like, let's say Star Trek Discovery just randomly decides to not, the show's not about any of the characters, and they do a show set in the an episode set in the 22nd century where the time traveler visits Rasmussen. I'd love to see that.
We could have a short Trek episode about that.
Yeah. Call it the Rasmussen Files or whatever, because I want to see what whoever the guy's name is, probably like Joe Leone or Joe Leone, New Jersey inventor. I don't know. It's like, hey, I don't know if that means that you're from New Jersey, Sean, but but it was great.
It's just that Joe Leone to me sounds very mafioso, right?
Is that right? Are you saying that like someone should change their name if it's Joe Leone because of the stigmas?
No, keep it.
Oh, you're saying it's a good thing. Okay.
I would love to sound like I come from the mafia.
So what would be more of like a con artist name? Like what would and I mean he must have been a really bad inventor, because first of all, he must have given up by the time the time traveler arrived. We can be sure of that, because a truly genuine inventor wouldn't be trying to like, kill a time traveler to steal his time machine. Right.
Yeah,
So maybe he is a mafioso. Maybe it is
Jimmy Trinket.
Jimmy Trinket. He might not even be an inventor. That might be he's just a pathological liar.
He does say that he's a failed inventor. He does say that he's a failed inventor. So that to me is just someone that stays at home and procrastinates and says, I'll invent something tomorrow.
And as luck would have it, a time machine lands in his lap.
Boom.
Life is so unfair. Life is, like, it can't end up in it won't appear here in my room. It just,
Of course not. Not
Joe
us.
Leone
Him.
gets the time machine. So yeah, I really want to know more about those circumstances, and you kind of can figure some of that out just as we spent time doing here. So I think from that perspective, again, the episode is amusing. I did like, again, if I had to imagine myself watching it more attentively when I was a kid, which I totally didn't. I was probably doing homework at the same time as watching it, which is, the only way I was allowed to watch TV. But
okay,
it was usually math.
I just can't multitask. I can't watch an episode and I watch episodes of shows that I don't necessarily enjoy, but while I do the dishes, but then I pay close attention to the dishes, more, and not the episode. I can't. Yeah, I'm not good at doing two things at once. I couldn't do homework. I couldn't read while having the TV on or something. That wouldn't work.
I couldn't read either, but I think I always tried to do math while Star Trek: The Next Generation was on.
Trying to get those Wesley vibes.
I was totally 100%, which is probably why I didn't do well in math, Mom and Dad. Anyway. Just kidding. Totally just kidding. I love you, mom and dad.
Were you the same age as Will Wheaton when he was on the show? Were you younger or
How old
older?
is?
How does that work?
Do you have any idea
I have
how
no
old
idea.
Will Wheaton is now?
I can Google that as we speak. He's not
Hey
even in this
Siri,
episode.
how old is Will Wheaton?
Ooh.
Let's see.
Will Wheaton is 45.
He's 45. He was 5 years older than I am.
Well, technically he's 46 because apparently his birthday is the 29th of July, so he just turned 46.
Happy birthday, Will Wheaton.
Happy birthday, Will Wheaton.
Belated.
If this were Junk Space Nine, I would propose a toast.
Yes, well, I just finished my coffee, so I have no more toasts to give. Sorry, Will Wheaton.
Sorry, sorry about that. Too late.
You should have thought of it at the beginning of the show.
Oh, damn it. You snooze, Will Wheaton loses, right?
Did you see how I used speaking of canon, I know we're trying to keep on a time crunch here, and I will win this. My time, which I've written down on a piece of paper, which I'll show you at the end of the episode.
I have to battle this.
I
have to fight this.
Yes, as proof that I was that I'm from the future. But did you see my canon chart? My mind node that I posted on the internet.
I saw
Did
that.
you?
I was
Will
confused
Wheaton?
by it.
Did you see the Will Wheaton reference? Can I show
Yeah,
it real quick?
Go ahead, put it up on screen.
I'm going to show it real quick so that we can talk about it real quick. Because actually, this is a perfect episode to talk about canon and not canon. Not just of Starfleet Boy, but also of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
So here's one of my notes. It's very short and it ties into to canon. I just wanted to say that it's interesting because in this episode, the Federation colony that we visit, they use clear screen pads, so transparent pads, and they have a clear screen in their laboratory, in their lab. And so I think we don't see that often. We've seen it in the episode where there's a crystalline entity that attacks a colony. But we don't see it often, but we do see these transparent screens come up in TNG. And it pleases me to see them somewhere else than in Discovery.
Well,
so
it pleases you, but there's canon, right? But there's also continuists, right? And this is what bothers like all the continuists, because they're like, well, there's these clear screens in Star Trek: The Next Generation, but they seem like they're not in Star Trek: The Original Series. So how does a show that takes place before them have it? So, I'm sure someone will pull up.
Here's the thing. Let's be very clear, and I'm gonna back you up because you had a conversation on Twitter about this, but I didn't butt in. But continuity and canon are two very different elements. Canon is decided by essentially like the producers or the owners of the franchise, the owners of the product. They decide what is and what isn't canon. Continuity is essentially a coherence in storytelling. The canon that the producers decide isn't necessarily coherent or doesn't necessarily have any continuity to it. So they can decide to make things canon even if they don't make sense, and then you have to just deal with that.
Right.
And you can make things up in your mind. We can also refer to Memory Alpha, which have the most amazing ways of explaining the most ridiculous things. You just have to kind of deal with that.
That brings me to, hold on, I need to switch the tool here. You're a tool, Picard. Okay, so in my logic, there's Star Trek canon, right? And this includes Star Trek: The Original Series, the animated series, Star Trek 1 through 6, TNG, Star Trek 7 through 11.
Star Trek 7 to 10, I think you mean, because 11 is.
Is it? Oh, I thought Nemesis was here. I'll fix it later. I thought Nemesis was 11. My math is.
We have 13 movies currently.
As I've already established, my math is terrible in this.
11 is Star Trek 9.
All right, got it. Anyways, that was meant to be Star Trek 10 then. And then there's the transitional primary canon. And the reason why there is a transitional primary canon is because Gene Roddenberry's main sphere of influence is in this part of Star Trek. And then these are post Gene Roddenberry Star Treks, but they are still very close to his original vision because basically the people that worked on these shows also worked with Gene Roddenberry. So that's why you have Star Trek DS9, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise. So it backs up your point about who decides what canon is. So Star Trek then again says, hey, well, these things happen because Spock travels from one universe into another universe, or from one timeline into another timeline, and it's the Spock from this timeline over here. So now you have so in some way Star Trek 2009 through beyond is canon, and then I just put Star Trek Discovery there because it's not finished yet.
I find it tiring that Star Trek is the story of Spock the same way the X-Men movies is just the story of Wolverine.
Is it though?
Well, I mean, except what you've got in blue there, everything else is about Spock. Oh, maybe not TNG, but
yeah.
he still has. You just did a 2-episode.
Yeah, Voyager. I mean, DS9 and Voyager are not about Spock. I don't know.
He's too present. It annoys me.
He definitely brings this into canon, though. That's what I'm saying. Is like the presence of this Spock in this universe brings it into canon, but rightfully so as an alternate reality, not the reality that we're into. Star Trek Discovery. I put Star Trek Discovery into secondary canon only because it's not finished. So we have no idea where it falls.
Where they're going with it, yeah.
Where they're going with it.
Okay, I gotta say two things. Spock's presence in Star Trek 09 just kind of proves that it's not a reboot, because a reboot is when you restart something, and if you got a character that continues on, then it's not a restart. Also, I do not second your chart there. I'm not. I'm not one that follows your personal little chart. Though I will say that everything that you have under primary, transitional primary, and secondary canon, that is all canon. You just have a way of you segregate canon.
Right. And the reason I put all these things, yeah, exactly. So the reason I put all these things into the canon bubble here is because there are elements now, because of shows like Discovery, and even things that may have happened over here, that are influenced by books, comics, audios, fan fiction, fan films, William Shatner, Patrick Stewart, and video games. So I think they're good influencers of canon, and some of them become canon because they appear on these shows. So Discovery has the opportunity to canonize a lot of things, including William Shatner and Patrick Stewart. So,
but the rule is, all of these things that you've got in yellow here, until they haven't been shown on screen by any of the things that are up there, they're not established in canon.
Well, that's why unfortunately, when you're talking about what's pagan but noble, which is my subcategory, there's way too many to list. So I just put them in. Like I said, I just put them in. I know there's only 2 books by Jerry Taylor that are considered canon.
Well, no longer. They're
done. Removed. Okay, so see, this part's just, these are just general categories. They're not meant to say that any specific work is or isn't canon, but that they can be, and that's why they're there. So that's how that works, if that helps. But the Star Trek Authority, which you talked about earlier, the primary sources of knowledge about canon, or when you're trying to decide what and what isn't canon, is of course Gene Roddenberry, perhaps his family and friends that are passionate about Star Trek, and people who worked, of course, with Gene Roddenberry, such as Rick Berman, et cetera, et cetera. They're not necessarily the final word on canon, but they have a high sphere of influence. They're the primary source of influence for canon.
See, I find there's too many names in your thing. What
do you mean?
Canon for a work of fiction shouldn't work like a friggin' democracy. All right, it's a dictatorship. There should be one person that says this is possible, this is not, this is what happened, and that didn't.
Wow, you just became the Anakin Skywalker of Star Trek.
Maybe I do deal in Star Trek absolutes. No, I'm sorry. It's just there needs to be some sort of clear decision.
The problem with that, Sean, is that because Gene Roddenberry is dead and the show continues, no one is willing to agree on who that authority should be. Therefore,
the main problem is we have Paramount and CBS.
They're still comprised of many individuals. See, Paramount and CBS is an entity. You're saying the way I'm understanding what you're saying is like Sohail, and I agree with this 100%, by the way, should be the authority on canon. And I think that that's true. Like, I think that, like, well, you know what? I might be the Palpatine of Star Trek. Why don't you join me on this crusade to take over, to rule the Star Trek canon? I'm sorry.
What I think is, if Star Trek was like, if Viacom and CBS would emerge again, or if, let's say, another third entity were to buy all of Star Trek from everyone else, so if essentially Star Trek needs to be owned by one company, and once that's done, that company can designate someone to lead. For example, Alex Kurtzman's been designated to lead everything regarding CBS. The problem is you can't actually call him like the canon overlord, because he doesn't have any control whatsoever what's going on with the Paramount movies. If Paramount were to also all of a sudden,
although he is involved with them, so he does have
involved
influence.
with them.
He has influence on both in both spheres. If Paramount he may in fact be the most influential person in Star Trek right now.
But if Paramount were to say, okay, look, what CBS have done with Alex Kurtzman, we're doing it with Alex Kurtzman as well. He's now our showrunner for these movies. He's now our overlord for these movies. Then I would be like, okay, he's calling the shots in all of the Star Trek that we will ever see on our screens, small or big. He's the canon lord now. Everything that he says is canon is everything that he's. But then he would have to make official statements. He can't just, he has to stand up somewhere and say, this isn't.
We have, I don't know how this happened. It could be because Future Me made this happen, Future Me being myself. But I just got a text message from Scott, from Galdu Scott. Wow. And so now I'm going to show.
You really are from the future.
I really am from the future. So now I'm going to switch.
That's amazing.
I'm going to switch here really quickly to show that that Scott has officially taken a picture with cheery William Shatner. Wow, he's very cheery in that picture. He must have made my friend Scott, and then I forget who this is, but it's someone that I know.
Okay, so anyways, Scott is on the left, right?
Scott's on the left, and then
I now have a face to a voice. Amazing.
Yes, now you know what Scott looks like. He probably hates that I'm showing everyone. No, he's been on the show, so he can't hate that. Ha ha ha. Anyways, congratulations, Scott. I tried to do this and I failed, but maybe next year. Very cool.
Congratulate you on the photo that you took.
I congratulate you on the photo that you. Oh no, that yours was way better actually. I have to go out of that. That was really good. You're the official William Shatner of the voice of William Shatner versus. I'm just gonna take a minute to say wow.
Wow.
And do you want to come on Starfleet, boy, and tell the story? All right. Let's see here. You can be a call-in guest. All right, that's cool. We're on now. Oh, I didn't tell him that. We are live now.
That's important. We're live.
We're live on Starfleet, boy.
Back to the studio.
Yeah. So the real question I have on my mind, Sean, is how do we prevent Doomcock from becoming the president of the United Federation of Planets? That's what we all have to think about.
I think he's preventing himself, honestly. But
I hope so. I hope you're right. Some of his, like, I fell into the trap and I watched his Expanse.
He needs to be sent to Repente.
I have a soft spot for the Expanse, and he just loves on it. Like, he spews his doom all over the Expanse, and I was enjoying.
That's just disgusting. I don't want to know about the Expanse being spewed doom on. I'm not. I don't want that.
We're gonna find out now. We're gonna find out right now if I'm in the convention still. Not a good time. So I'm so
We could have had a live. All right, we could have had a live convention
update.
segment that would have been amazing and unique for Starfleet Boy. But instead, we're just sitting here like two schmucks. Right?
Because we have major FOMO. We have major fear of missing. Next year, Sean, we're gonna broadcast live
We are.
from STLV, and we'll show. Siri just talked to me for no reason. Okay. I'm gonna be like, hold on. I'm not gonna convey all that guilt to Scott, but I will say, okay, talk to you later. Can't wait for the download.
One day there'll be a we'll have a panel. We'll have a live Starfleet Boy panel at Star Trek Las Vegas, right? We'll do an episode in front of an audience.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. It'd be stressful.
That would be pretty cool. All right. So, anyways, you saw my thing, but I never got to explain my Will Wheaton joke. So I'm gonna go quickly.
Go ahead.
Finish
off that Will Wheaton joke.
I should have known you'd have so much to say about this damn chart.
I'm that kind of person.
So, anyways, you have professional fans, then you have non-professional fans, then you have fans, and then you have noble non-fans. And I wrote Will Wheaton. Just kidding. Because Will Wheaton, of course, is a fan of the show. He may not have always been. I don't know. Anyways, that's my chart, and that was my joke. And it's weird.
You got a few likes on Twitter, so some people like the joke.
Yes.
Or the chart.
Yes.
Or both.
Yes. All right. So
before all of this, you were talking about how the characters and the performances were very good in this episode. And I wanted to follow up on that by saying that I agree. I don't think the execution of both stories was very good, but I will say that I enjoyed all of the character moments, and I enjoyed everyone's, just what you said, everyone's reaction to this past dude. The way that Riker is just constantly mad at him, the amazing speech and outburst by Picard in his ready room, the kind of odd reactions that Data has towards him.
Yeah, he
confused
submits,
responses.
but he also submits to him and starts calling him sir. Like in that one scene where he's like, "Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir." And it's like, Data, what is going on here? Like, that takes some balls for Rasmussen to do that.
I like all that.
I did like the line that Data says as well, which is, "I presume the handprint thing will work whether you are conscious or not."
I put that in my notes. That's a threat. Data threatened him.
I loved it.
That was so cold. I love that. That was awesome.
I think that Rasmussen tricked the actual time traveler, whose name may have been Rasmussen, by seducing him, because why would you give a handprint authorization to a loser inventor from New Jersey? Like, how did he even, you would think this ship is so secure that you couldn't really hack it. Plot hole. Okay,
I'm just gonna assume that I think he beat the guy down. He hurt him a lot. Because this guy's coming from the 26th century, he wasn't expecting such violence.
Because it's so nice.
Yeah, exactly. He's it's easy to be a saint in heaven, and so he rolls up to the 22nd century and gets beat by this guy, and the guy essentially told him to change the handprint authorization on the ship, and because he knows how to work the ship too. He must have got the guy to tell him how it works. Unless it's just all, voice activated. Spaceship, take me to the 26th century, or take me to the Picard.
Well, that was interesting, and then also the time limit was interesting. Like, why wouldn't he just be able to do things at his leisure? Which, by the way, there is a time limit. I have to keep looking at my, that's part of the story here. Now we will see.
Maybe it's because he doesn't exactly know how to use it to perfection. Maybe the guy I assume beat up, told him how to, use.
I think I think he says he murdered him, right? Yeah. And I think he may have just taken, it's like what Data is suggesting. It's like he may have just taken the guys, he may have I mean, he must be a mafioso for sure, because he may have chopped off the guy's hand, put it on the thing, and then said, ship, reprogram. Yeah, I 100% this guy is nefarious ways are coming.
God.
But anyways, those were two things that I noticed in that. And then so like, you know, why does he have a time limit? That was weird.
Because he probably doesn't know how to work the ship properly.
So that's a good Trek explanation.
I assume that's it. Because then it's just stupid. And then if it goes back to the 22nd century, then it's just lying around in the 22nd century somewhere. Isn't it?
This is true.
Someone else is gonna get it.
Or well, no, now no one may, because if they try the handprint, they wouldn't even know where the freaking thing is, because like the ship looked very uniform, and like he happens to touch this one area, and then it turns into the handprint thing.
Well, that's the back of the ship.
There's not even a door. Yeah.
Yep. There's
not even a door.
I gotta say, I hated the design of the ship. Out of all of the things, I loved all of the CG, and I loved the big, you know, finale that we had regarding the planet. I just hated the look of the ship. It's one of those, how should I say this? Star Trek has this way of encapsulating the past by trying to show us the future. Right. They show us these, what, like, their idea of what the future will be, but in these hideous kind of, I don't know, past ways, and it felt very old for a future ship. I just didn't like the design. I think it was too far-fetched.
I think what I remember when I was a kid, like thinking, well, I thought it was cool. I remember thinking it was cool, like the idea of a future ship being so minimal kind of appealed to me, because I thought like, oh yeah, like everything would be voice operated. The computer would be so smart that it would be able to do like navigation it'd be kind of like how we have we're on the horizon of having autonomous vehicles one day. Your child, as a matter of fact, may never drive a car. Think about that for a second. Maybe. It may never be a necessity for little on the tube, but oh, little on the tube. But yeah, so I like that, but I don't know if I think now, having seen, so Doctor Who comes to mind. I think I mentioned this to you on our offline conversation, but Doctor Who comes to mind when I see this episode. And I remember being excited when I was younger, because there was a possibility that there was going to be a crossover with Doctor Who of the time and Star Trek The Next. Oh my gosh, I just have to show you. Okay, we're getting live STLV coverage. You have to see this, Sean. Sorry, I gotta stop.
This really is an exceptional episode.
It really is. Your dreams came true. You were like, we're not getting this coverage, and then all of a sudden, Scott is making our dreams come true, and we can break down how this actor's facial expression in this photo tells about how he feels about who he's with. So there's Scott in the casino, because it takes place at a casino with Michael Dorn. Michael Dorn looks slightly perturbed by Scott. No, I'm just kidding. He does not.
Well, I mean, you could interpret as Scott just touched his ass.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. Scott, are you...
Look at that. Look at that.
That is very... That's very bad. Scott, please stop sexually harassing the icons of Star Trek. But anyways, that's amazing. He just happened to see Michael Dorn and accosted him for a photo. That's really cool.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
We'll do that. We'll be doing that next year.
Next year, yes.
We'll be the creepos rolling up to all these Star Trek icons.
Oh, sorry to the podcast listeners. There's so many things in this episode that you can't see.
This episode is just a mess.
This is not what you expected, is it?
No.
It's never what you expect. So, hold on. OMG, we are flipping out.
This might be your past, but it is my future.
Okay, so we do have to spend a little time talking about that scene.
The best scene
Watching
of the
it this
episode, I
time,
think.
what's that?
Best scene in the episode, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I
The
mean,
whole Picard moment.
the whole moment, yes,
Yeah.
everything up
And
until the conclusion.
that's the true Star Trek, because not only do you have an amazing speech and performance, but that's the moment where the two stories come together, and you have that moral dilemma. So that's, if that were the episode, that moment, it would be a 10. But then there's the rest. But that moment that moment is the defining moment.
I think I figured out what you don't like about this episode, or I may have already known that because I'm from the future. But anyway,
You seem confused about your own time traveling shenanigans.
I'm just trying really hard not to give too much away
Oh,
because
okay. Oh,
I
you're
don't
so
want
safe.
I don't want to influence your decisions about how long this episode can go on for. I definitely don't want to do that. So just say.
At any moment, I could just hang up.
You could. It would be really brilliant. But I think we got another message from Scott, but this one I don't think makes sense. So I'm gonna keep talking about Star Trek
Okay.
Next Generation. So yeah, the whole speech is really wonderful and great, and it makes me wonder, especially if I were in the same situation. Okay, I'll just ask you: do you think is Picard right in his argument? Like, do you think that Picard's plea to find out what the correct decision is, or what the decision he's recorded in history as making is, for him to find out? Do you think that that's a valid thing? And
Absolutely.
do you think that? But then, do you think, even though this guy's a charlatan, do you think it was in the moment before you knew that was up? Because you do think it's brilliant. Do you think that, like, in that moment he did what he should have done, or do you think he should have cracked and just said at that point, actually, I'm not from the future?
There's two very deep questions there. There's should Picard extract information from the guy? Is it a good idea to do that? And the other one is, should this guy, which is clearly a mobster with no moral compass,
Right.
should he save these 20 million people?
Right.
Yeah. So if I were to say what's the best thing to do for that guy should have said, yes, I admit I'm from the past, and so I'm not from the future. I don't know what's going to happen to these people, and we're going to straight up murder 20 million people. If you need to make this decision on your own, and you can't use me as a tool. I'm not a tool that you haven't used. So don't blame yourself. Even if they die, then you've done everything that you can. So I think it's important for him to do that. It'll help the guy's sanity as well. Because imagine being put in that position where 20 million people have died because of a decision that you made, and you think that you didn't use this tool that you had. Bringing it back to Picard, I think that yes, he should have done. He was right to do everything that he could to try and extract information from the guy, even if he's from the future. Time travel is a hypocrite, because they come from the future and say, "Oh, I can't tell you this and I can't tell you that, because then it'll influence you and what have you." It's just, if it really is that important, just don't come. Stay where the hell you are. You know what's going to happen. You can see what's going to happen, before you come back into the past. So if you're here, I'm going to use you.
I think that
that's how I see it.
That the you're 100% right. I think I'm pretty safe to say that Picard was at least the thief. He didn't know maybe that he was from the past, but he at least knew that he was a thief in that moment, because right after the correct decision is made, so to speak, or whatever, Picard makes his decision, which I love that scene too. He's like, I've never been one to play it safe. What was that?
I'm stealing stuff from my own desk. It's a joke that I should have started in the beginning of the episode. I should have just loaded everything.
Oh my goodness. So then, which is your favorite again? I know the new one, which I don't have. The
I like
Anson
the Pike
Mount.
one because it calls back to the
Yeah.
original design, which the original design I love. And then
Mhm.
if I were to pick one that isn't is that like Imagine Discovery isn't established, it would be that one.
This one here, the one Rob chose.
Yeah, I like that
Trekkie
one.
Rob chose this one as well. I like this one because see, it's very similar to my favorite.
It is. It is. I think it might be a
It's
callback to
like
that actually.
I think it might be. It's like you have the original series, right, which is more simple, and you have the original Next Generation one, which is more simple, and then when we graduate to the movies, they graduated to this one, so it kind of feels the same way. Because
Well,
in Star
technically, the movie one came before the Next Generation, didn't it? The one that you have on.
Oh yeah, but this one was the Next Generation one used in the Next Generation movies, is what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the one that they made for Voyager, I think.
Correct.
Yeah. And then anyway,
And then I don't know.
Patches. I like that one.
Yeah, they had what I like about Star Trek is they have to update everything when they decide to make a change. What I liked about
Well,
Star
talking about time travel, apparently there's a theory that says that the reason why Starfleet and Starfleet changes their uniforms constantly and changes their badges constantly is so that when they do time travel, they immediately know in which era they've ended up.
That's genius.
That's it's. I don't think it's official. I don't think it's canon. I think it's just a theory, but I like it. I think it does make sense.
Well, I spoke to well, a person
Okay.
in the military. I couldn't decide if that person's my friend or not. Sorry. But anyway,
So the person.
and I asked them this question. I said like what does everything on your uniform mean? And they said that like the current uniform, which now prompts me to ask further questions I should have asked them at that point. But they said the current uniform represents like an approach. The military is trying to go for an approach where you can see like in the clearest possible way what rank and everything everyone is without having to convey it verbally, right? And I go, oh, that's interesting. But I couldn't really tell from when I was looking at his uniform because I don't know the language. So that kind of makes sense that the military branch would have a code like it, you know, like the pips in TNG. You just look and you're like, oh, that's a captain.
I think that would be the best way to go. The pips or the bands that they have on the arms. I think that's like to someone that isn't military. That's the easiest way. I know that military people find it very obvious. Everything that's going on in the Wrath of Khan and everything. I don't. You know, if you've got like a triangle or if you've got like an X or a cross, it's different to me. It's just different symbols. But having, I don't know, having like a circle and then two circles and then three circles, or having like a full circle and then a full circle and a half circle, or whatever, that kind of stuff, it makes sense.
So Rasmussen is from the 22nd century, and he decides to come to this point in time to dupe the crew of the Enterprise by stealing trinkets from them. How do you think he got the information? Like, how do you think he, like, we know he stole this like craft, like, but what do you think he asked it? Like, was he like, you know, ship of the future? Like, where's the best chance for me to get, you know, like how did he come to the decision to get there? That's a question I have.
Okay. I'm gonna answer that by asking another question.
Okay.
that's part of what troubles me with the execution of the episode. It kind of feels like they want to reveal this so much. They want to keep the plot twist so much that they want to keep you from questioning the fact that he's from the 26th century. And in order to do so, he seems very aware of everything that's going on. He knows how to use his ship. He knows exactly where to come and when. He knows, you know, what everything does. He automatically goes to the sink in his quarters and just opens it. He opens the sink. You on the Enterprise D in front of the mirror. I wouldn't know that there's a sink there. I wouldn't know where to press to open it. It's like, has he already been on the Enterprise D? Because I'm assuming that not every ship in the Federation or in Starfleet at that time even has that technology. That must be pretty specific to a certain design, and yet he knows exactly how it works. And so it makes sense if he's from the 26th century. He's a historian. He's learned about the ship. He knows about these things. But then it doesn't make sense if he's from the 22nd century. So as you said in the beginning of the episode, either he has already visited different time periods and he's going to come back to this one because he thinks that maybe this technology is advanced but not too advanced, so he'll be able to recreate it. Or it's just a major plot hole and they didn't really think it through. They just wanted to, I mean, they skimmed over details in order to make the plot twist work better, which is a recurring theme nowadays. J.J. Abrams, that's his major talent.
One other thing that I noticed was that if holodeck technology and I guess transporter technology and replicator technology continue to advance for 200 years, you could imagine that Rasmussen can just ask his future ship to replicate a phaser of the 24th century. Yeah. And it would be exactly what he needs. So maybe he's just really stupid and went about it a long way. But you would imagine that the ship feeds him somehow, right? Like he's traveling around in it. Like, I don't know, just some things to think about that you don't think about necessarily until you've watched this episode and picked it apart.
It's only when you think back at it, it doesn't really make sense. And then you kind of think, okay, maybe it's just that he didn't think his plan through. But I don't know. It wasn't the best of executions, in my opinion. I do like the fact that Riker constantly gets annoyed at him.
It's
because he's a very annoying character too.
He is really annoying. Matt Fuhrer, which let's take a minute to talk about him. I don't think you knew who Matt Fuhrer was until today, right?
No. He's got one of those faces that I think I've seen around.
He's a very prolific actor. I don't want to go through all his
Does he do a lot of cameos, or does he do a lot of guest appearances in TV series and movies, that kind of stuff? Because I feel like he's one of those faces that pops up now and then.
I would say he's also been in several films. He's just the thing he's most famous for is what I sent you, which is Max Headroom. And I actually remember Max Headroom, and
that reminded me of Rap God, the music video by Eminem. I don't know if there's like
if it comes after and it's similar enough. It was heavily influenced by Max Headroom.
It came out a few years ago.
In fact, I would even go so far as to say that things like Doomcock are influenced by Max Headroom. There's like just this Max Headroom was like the original digital troll, if you will.
Okay.
But then there's this other video I posted, which is really funny, which is William Shatner being interviewed by Max Headroom, and it's really delightful to kind of see William Shatner off, having fun, if you will. Not that he doesn't have fun. It's just that he's really having a laugh in this interview, and I think it's great to see it. But aside from that, I think Max Headroom also appears in Back to the Future 2 when they go into the Cafe 80s. He is the server that pops up down from the TV that offers Marty McFly Pepsi Perfect.
Okay, so that's a reference to
Max Headroom.
It's always alluding to what he's done before.
What's that?
It's always like alluding to what he's done before. Okay.
Yeah. So he seems to. I would say at some point that back in the 80s, Max Headroom was probably as famous as Kanye West is right now. And he's a fictitious character, which is pretty cool.
Just like Kanye West.
well played, Trek on the Tube. So I just wanted to give it a special note to him. And I think if you're ready, Sean, I'm ready to rate this episode and talk about that.
All right. So do I go first? No, you go first because I did the episode
I always
summary.
go first so that you don't, because I'm tricky and you think I'm lying.
Yeah, that's right.
You
that's
and
true.
the doctor.
That's true.
I give this episode a 7.
Wow. But I mean, you're the 10 guy. You're the guy that gives 10s.
No, freely. Gary is more. So this is why I miss having Gary on the show.
Because he pulls your ratings up.
He does. He's always he gives a 10 to every episode. Gary really loves.
That's not so bro. That's not #SoPro. That's a biased opinion. You want him to drag all your episode ratings up. That's not good.
Yeah, it's because Star Trek deserves to be dragged up.
This episode is a 5.
Wow, that's not what I. what I would have expected, but I actually knew because I'm from the future that it was a 5.
Of course you
And
did.
so
I should have asked you to tell me my rating.
I should have done. You should have done that, but you didn't think of it.
God.
And then we could have had a moral dilemma about if I told you your rating.
That would have lasted another 17 minutes.
I had the most fun I've had so far on an episode of Starfleet Boy. So I give this episode of Starfleet Boy a 10.
Absolutely. I give this episode out of 10 a 21.
Wow.
In following the way Discovery respects canon.
It's clear we have to get the Starfleet Boy team together and have a canon discussion, or at least a big group discussion about what's coming, about the future of Discovery. Exactly, I agree with that.
And the past of Star Trek, essentially.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, I give it a 7, and you give it a 5. So I guess we meet halfway on a 6.
Yeah.
So overall rating is a 6. And now that the episode is officially over, I present to you the time that I wrote down, which is 80 minutes.
Bullshit.
You'll never know now, will you? You'll never know if that was real or not, because I am from the future. Sean, it's been super awesome having you today. Do you have anything to promote before we go?
I have nothing to promote.
Nothing
I have
to
absolutely
say?
nothing to promote.
Well, I'm going to promote you and say that if you've made it this far in our discussion, please take a minute to go and visit Sean's YouTube page, which is Trek on the Tube. Very easy to find. And he's also on Twitter, and he's quite engaging. You ask many compelling questions and create some controversies along the way, or not create them, but at least spawn their creation.
Yeah, I instigate them, but without doing it on purpose.
Yes. But I enjoy it very much, and so I think audience, you might as well. And then also the Starfleet Boy team, who's not here on every episode, but the Doctor, who has nothing to promote, who we heard from Gul Scott, which is the source of Drunk Space Nine. And then you have the real Ketwalski, whose channel I've been enjoying very much lately. I always enjoy all your channels, but lately there's been a few zingers on there. And then there's Trekkie Rob, who runs the Trek Book Club, and they're quite cool. So check them out. If I had more time to read, I would read all the books that they're reading, but alas, I'm a troglodyte in that way. And then we have our dear Gary Trekker Prize, who is moving to a new starbase, and he has not been on the show in a bit, but he will be, he promises. And he is responsible for the look and feel of Starfleet Boy. So thank you very much. And that's it. Now we're really at 80 minutes, because
we are really at 80 minutes.
We are really at 80 minutes now. So now we have to end the show.
We have to end the show on a bombshell, because I'm hearing that at Star Trek Las Vegas Live, Patrick Stewart is on stage with Alex Kurtzman, and they just officially announced the Picard TV show.
Yes.
So it's happening, people. It's here. It's now.
Oh my God,
it's on Starfleet Boy.
We're the first people to be talking about it on the internet.
You have to upload this now. Well, technically, Text Trek already tweeted it.
No, but we're gonna upload this shit on YouTube right now, guys.
Go ahead, shenanigans. Go ahead.
Shenanigans. Well, wait.
They have to wait like 80 minutes. Before we should have known this before this episode began. You should have broke this news before.
So obviously I'm not from the future, and that's what I'm here to tell you is I'm actually from the beginning of the season, and I was trying to trick you so that I could get information.
Oh my God.
I was trying to steal information, which I've just done, and now I'm going to go back in time and tell everyone about Patrick Stewart being in the Picard show. So that's exactly
run the YouTube game.
But wait, I just want to say I'm really excited about that. I hope it's done really awesome. I hope it's done correctly. I don't know what that means, but I hope.
It will be set about 20 years after Nemesis. Jean-Luc is no longer captain.
Yes.
And that's all we know.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I'm just really excited. Just really excited right now.
happiness, and joy.
I don't want to go in case there's more news that comes out. No, okay.
That's it. That's all we know. That's all we know.
Right. Thank you for that breaking news. I'm glad you were following along.
Thank you to Text Trek.
And thank you to Text Trek, who's going to be on the show at some point, by the way. We're in negotiations.
Well, now he has to, right? He's breaking news for us.
Yeah, he's the breaking news. Text Trek, you have to be on the show.
Okay.
All right, Sean.
All right. Well, see you guys.
Live long.
Thank you for having me.
Audience. Thank you very much.